This episode of the Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends podcast is brought to you by Guy and Lady Barrel alcohol-infused cigars. These cigars are absolutely incredible, and they are perfect for any occasion. I particularly enjoy their newest flavor, Mojito. I'm not sure if you heard me correctly. I said Mojito-flavored cigar. I don't think it gets much better than that. Now, cigars are best enjoyed with company, so head on over to alcoholinfusedcigars.com and pick up a 5-cigar box set with any flavor of your choice. These cigars are great for birthdays, weddings. They're a great gift. You can give them for almost any occasion. I particularly love to get a cigar out, go on an evening walk, and pray. But you can use it however you want. Once again, thank you to Guy and Lady Barrel Cigars for sponsoring our show. Go to alcoholinfusedcigars.com and see all they have to offer. Please enjoy responsibly. Kevin Hackenberg here, Christians Who Drink Whiskey, Their Open-Minded Friends. I'm super excited because I'm in Los Angeles and I have my good friend Rick Walls here. We're going back in time.
Yes, it is a trip down memory lane. Watching you and your podcast, a lot of our friends. Oh my goodness, it's the whole beginning of the Philly production career.
Yeah, early in our careers, we met, and also in the podcast we had Rich Gretzinger, who's a mutual friend. We worked with a lot. Charles Washington, who did the Juneteenth episode, and I'm excited. When I came to LA, I was like, hey, I got to hang out with Rick Walls. So Rick brought us some Chivas Regal, and I'm going to pour some of that. I'm going to pour some. You already got some rocks. I want to put some rocks in mine.
Chivas Regal is a blended Scotch whiskey, and it has it's comparable to Johnny Walker Black, and I was really, when you had your show, I wanted to make sure that you got something that was very special.
Well, thank you for bringing this, and cheers, man.
Thank you. This could make for a very interesting show after a while.
It just the title alone gets people talking. And,
Absolutely.
And if that doesn't get them talking enough, then we pour them some whiskey.
I believe that you could paraphrase Benjamin Franklin. You could say whiskey is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy.
Very true. Very true. Well, seriously, Rick, thanks for coming to join me at my little mock studio in my friend Carly's house here in Hollywood, and
anytime, all
the way down from Burbank. You got here early.
Yeah. Well, I forgot about the COVID traffic.
The COVID traffic,
or lack of.
If you haven't been to Los Angeles because you're afraid of traffic, come now during the pandemic.
Now would be the time to ride around, because I came down here in 8 minutes, and that has never happened.
Yeah.
And I am not a fast driver.
What's a typical?
Oh, that would be 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah,
at least.
Half the time.
At least, yeah.
Half the time I was heading out to somewhere the other day, and I was like, I think it'll take an hour, and my host here was like, no, COVID traffic, cut the time in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I want the pandemic to end. I want 2020 to end, but I don't know. I don't want the lack of traffic to end. And I don't think you can have both.
I think we'll see a period of time where there will be less traffic because a lot of people are going to stay working from home. I was talking to a producer last night who has a company. I think it's got 30 employees, and she doesn't know if people come back to the office. Why should they?
I think that it reveals. Michelle Obama had a great quote. She said, "The presidency doesn't show what you are; it reveals what you are." The president doesn't make you; it reveals. And I think the same thing with the pandemic. It revealed a lot of things that we don't need.
Yeah.
And a lot of ways to get around it. And it's been amazing to me. You look around globally, and even here in the United States too, but globally, people have adapted. Once we found out what the problem is, how to solve it, what we have to do, people have adopted. adapted and improvised.
Adapted and adopted.
Right.
True. So let's go back. I mean, we'll do a little bit of history and then like the history that we don't have together.
Wow.
We were trying to figure out when exactly, but we definitely know we worked on a movie called Skirts.
Right.
Which was a kind of a play in front of 35mm cameras.
Exactly.
And
Rich Gredinger.
DP.
I was AD. Forgot who directed it.
Yeah. But you and Charles were reminding me that before I met you, I believe it's the right chronological history. You were working, doing legal work, and transitioned from legal into on-set work. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, kind of. What happened was, this is in Philadelphia,
90s.
and my background is in law. My degree is in criminal justice, a minor in political science and law school, courses.
And criminal justice, working in Hollywood now, you can find a lot of criminals working in entertainment.
Yeah, that's why I'm not in law anymore, because it would be overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, and then I'm also a certified paralegal, so I understand contracts and things like that.
Yeah.
People always ask me why I left the law, and I left the law because I always say I was tired of the duplicitousness, the backstabbing, and the questionable moral and ethical choices you had to make, so I went to show business.
What you found was equal to,
which was probably a lateral move that I discovered, but no. But what happened was I got burned out.
It's a lateral move.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I didn't know if you were saying that you moved down or up in terms of morality.
No, it was in terms of morality. I just moved it with. It's the same thing with prettier people. That's all it is. The thing is that I got burned out, and but I will never. I can't be less grateful to Temple University, to the Superior Court judges I clerked for and everything, because every single thing I learned in college I got to use in my job. Okay. And it was amazing, because I remember, working for the Philadelphia Electric Company, working for doing class action suits as a paralegal. All of the stuff I learned, I was able to apply. So that was a blessing. That was always a blessing.
Awesome.
And then my first movie was Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I was because I had been burned out. I traveled to the Caribbean.
I had Brett Trump here. We'll keep going though. It doesn't need to be a redo, but I want to make it sound as good as possible. All right, cool. So your first film was Philadelphia.
Right.
What did you do in Philadelphia?
I was the security guard for Denzel Washington.
Oh.
So I got burned out from the law, and I traveled for a while. I started writing. I took the Dove Simons 2-day film course. I took a course in screenwriting at the University of Pennsylvania, and I traveled. I lived in the Caribbean. I traveled around.
Where in the Caribbean?
Then I went to Jamaica,
nice.
The Bahamas, and Aruba. So I moved back to Philly. I came, I was just traveling, and I started doing security, because somebody of my stature, accounting really wasn't as sexy. So I did security, and we got a lot of music videos, a lot of movies. I went, did Luther Vandross, some tours of Boyz II Men, and, things like that. And doing Philadelphia, I did security for Denzel. So you know how we shoot on the East Coast, and West Coast people don't understand this. We have to shoot all the exteriors first, and we have what's called the cover set. We don't have that out here because it's always good weather, so you don't have to worry about, let's get these shots in before the snow comes, before the slush comes and all that. So we were shooting the exterior stuff, and I was working with Denzel Washington and Jason Robarbs, and I got to re-meet Oba Babatunde again, who I knew from my older brother, who was on Broadway for years. My older brother has like 9 Tony Awards for being on Broadway shows, and so it was great. And then, but it came to time when they went interior, and once they went to the interior, they didn't need as many security. But by that time, I had hooked up with Maureen McKenna, and she introduced me to Jonathan Demme, and so Jonathan had me as his PA for a few days.
Yeah, shout out to Mo.
Yes, shout out to Mo. But Jonathan Demme, it was a master class in directing.
Yeah.
And Jonathan asked me about movies, and I talked about his movie, Silence of the Lamb, and the last scene with Jodie Foster and how it was shot. And he said, I talked to you for 5 minutes, you're going to be a director. And I go, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, but you have an Oscar, so I will go with what you said. Yeah. What Jonathan taught me, what I got from Jonathan Demme was learning to articulate your vision. He said there's a lot of people who have vision. They got the vision of this thing. Great. How do you articulate it? You have to articulate it to every camera, to everybody on the crew, to your actors, so that everybody is going in the same direction. Yeah. Which is, like a Sidney Lumet quote, which is, as a director, you want to make sure everybody's going in the same direction. Yeah. So after Jonathan Demme, I just, boom, I want to be in this business, but I had no idea.
If Jonathan Demme, an Oscar-winning...
Yeah, if he tells you, you can be a director, then, I was like, okay, So I had no idea what to do. Maureen McKenna, Donald McKenna, they got me a job as a PA on... what was that show with Ving Rhames? It was the Fire Philly Heat.
Oh yeah.
Philly Heat. So
this is a few years before I joined the industry, because I remember the premiere for Philadelphia was my junior or senior year at Temple University, Messiah College, and I remember walking down the street to the Sam Eric Theater.
Right.
And watching Philadelphia on the big screen, and the opening montage was like my walk to the theater.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, I just saw the Sam Eric Theater is in the opening montage, and like it was just really like this powerful, like I'm getting chills right now saying it. Yeah. Like I could do. They made this movie here. Right. I think my history is like I didn't realize that I could be in cinema until my. Like, I'm a slow learner, and I realized that I wanted to be in radio, TV, and film when I signed up for a college class. I was like, what do I need? Oh, radio, TV, and film. And I realized I wanted to be in film. My last semester, I took a film class. And then I walk and see Philadelphia, and I'm like, it's done here. I could do this here. Right. And so my Jonathan Demme experience first was on Beloved. Okay. But so Philly Heat, these movies were like just like 2 or 3 years before I got out of college and was like,
I fell into them.
How do I do this?
I just fell into them. And one begat the other, and then I didn't know how to do the interstitial stuff, the commercials, the music videos, that kind of thing. That came with like Eric Chung and Karan Willis and Larry Schwartz. Yeah. Those guys, they started hiring me as PA, and then I started learning how to do it. And because of what I learned, I very quickly became, oh no, I can't be PA. I gotta move up. So I was older, so I started ADing, and then I got a lot of work in New York, which was very, very cool, because remember back in the day we had to take the film up to New York, right? To get
film. That's a celluloid.
It's a whole thing with celluloid. You have to develop it and everything. Don't worry about it. You should Google it. Yeah. But well, going up to New York, I would get other contacts at the film. What was the place we used to go? Duart. We used to go to Duart, and I would get contacts there.
And there's other PAs there. You're like, what are you working on?
Exactly. And I got some music videos, and so I did a whole bunch of music videos, and then I started directing second unit stuff, and I found out what second unit meant and all that, and then I got to work on second unit with John Rusk and my Steadicam guy, Steadicam, Carl. Anyway, but on 12 Monkeys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I did all the second unit stuff on 12 Monkeys, and John Rusk was so amazingly supportive, because he's an AD's AD.
Yeah, great guy.
And he was just like, I said I want to direct, and I worked with Terry Gilliam, and he said call the shots. Yeah. And I learned how to frame second unit stuff. I learned how to add to what we were shooting, and all that kind of stuff. And we would bring stuff back, and Terry Gilliam would say, make it dirtier, make it this. And what I learned from Terry Gilliam is, he says, shoot the end of the scene. What is the end of the scene? What is the last thing before we go to the next section? Shoot that the whole time. Yeah. So it teaches you to be dynamic within each scene, which ends up being in the tapestry of film. Yeah. So that was That was a great lesson.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and then I did Wide Awake.
Jonathan, Terry Gilliam,
and then Night Shyamalan.
Night Shyamalan.
What can you say about Night? Night is a mediocre basketball player, but
I've heard people say has told me this.
we played ball. Yeah, no, we played ball a couple of times, and
sorry, Night, if you watch this, stick to directing.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not sorry. But what Night taught me, okay, and Night once again, very generous. I worked on Wide Awake and some other things with him, and it was he said, "Don't fear silence." And he must have gotten that from Hitchcock. He got that from the older movies. Yeah. But Night, as a genius, he said, don't fear the silence. He said, when you make your movies, don't worry about filling every second with dialogue. Yeah. Because it's a visual medium.
So I just got this, I'm not sure where I learned this or someone gave me this similar advice. They said that when you get all the dialogue that's in the script, the script supervisor checks it all off. Someone told me, try this. Go back for another take that's dialogue free. Do the whole scene again with absolutely no dialogue, and see what you get.
Wow.
Because that's where the actors and cinematography as well can just tell a story that's like so pure. Going back to the days of like silent films, when a story had to be just told with images only, and images and performance.
That is an amazing idea.
You don't always have time for it.
No, you don't have time for it. You don't. You'd have to make time for that. I think it's an amazing idea. I know that there's a director out here, Ben Ramsey, who I've worked with and who was one of my favorite directors. But he does a lot of action films and everything. But Ben talked about learning movies by putting on a movie and taking off the dialogue. Yeah. And see, can you tell the story? Okay, yeah. I get that. I shoot with 2 cameras. So I'm always getting the wide, I'm getting the reaction and all that. But then there's times when I shoot wide and then I have the other camera getting the coverage, the little inserts and things like that. And I think that's as far as I can go as far as timing, though. That's the problem now, because cinema as an art form, it has to be confined into the business aspect of it. We have show. Yeah. We got the show and we do the show. Yeah. But we have to adhere to the business. Yeah. And the luxury of that kind of thing, as I get bigger, as you and I, your career gets bigger, you want to do a take with no dialogue, you can. But in general, right now, I gotta get them pages done.
100%.
But I think that's an interesting exercise, especially for maybe you could do it for poignant or significant scenes,
or moments in a scene where you feel like the words. Right. I just read a script this morning and I was like, I feel like some of these words are forced.
Don't need to be said.
And it's it's a husband and wife and they're having conflict, but sometimes conflicts, there are no words.
There are no words. You don't have to. My wife and I, we've been married 17 years. Yeah. Donique Patton is one of the best writers I know. I'm a big fan of hers. Yeah. Her also well. Her husband, but I'm a big fan of hers. Yeah. And one of the things she does is she does not overwrite a scene. I will overwrite a scene. Yeah. She doesn't overwrite a scene. Yeah. And there's times when I say, is it underwritten? And she says, let them say it. Yeah. Let them say it and let people figure it out, fill it in. Especially when you come to a husband and wife when we finish it. Our arguments go like this. Did you? Yeah, I did. Okay. All right, fine. And that's it. Yeah. Because that whole argument, we know exactly what happened. I was wrong. And then
he admitted here.
That's not a thing. that's not a question. So I was wrong. I apologize. She pointed it out, and she apologized, and we're done.
What's beautiful about the wordless or the word light, dialogue light scene is there's history there. Yeah, and that's where I feel like the script I read this morning, it didn't allow
you to
for
believe that there was history.
Didn't allow for the audience to think up their own history. To,
Right.
To integrate.
These guys must have been together for a long time because they didn't say this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They thought it, though.
So, yeah.
You can see them thinking it. Yeah.
Well, my older brother was on Broadway for years. Rodney was, he did Wiz.
Yeah.
Timbuktu with Eartha Kitt. Radio City Music Hall, The Nutcracker, Peter and the Wolf. So my brother has been on Broadway for years. And hanging around Broadway, being in the movies that he was on, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage.
Yeah.
So how do you write it so that it tells a story and still gives room for the actors to do what the actors do?
Yeah.
So
awesome.
and nowadays when we do scripts, we're in development on 5 different projects.
Yeah.
And we're going back and forth, and they're saying, just send me the log line or the 1 page, and then can you shoot it in this time frame, this and that. I'm going, you haven't read the script.
Yeah.
Okay, it would be. Danique had a whole discussion. I listened to her on Zoom the other day, and she was like getting frustrated, and I went like this, and she cut the sound. I said, he hasn't read the script.
Yeah.
So he's trying to ask you questions about the actual production of it or what your intentions were as a writer, but he hasn't read it.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is that if you don't understand what the structure is of the project, then you can't riff off of it. You can't adapt to it. You can't really do anything.
It's out here. I'm just getting used to LA. The first part of my career was all assistant cameraman. The middle of my career was being a cameraman, sliding into directing and producing. And now I'm trying to steer that towards, content, original content,
Right.
Directing, producing, whatever. And it's so interesting how fast the business is moving.
Yes.
It's moving so fast for the executives that they don't always have a chance to read the scripts.
Okay.
But that's where you know where the project's at. Like, is it worth? Is it ready to shoot today, tomorrow, 2 years from now, or just need to go back to rewrite?
All right. I would push back on you a little bit. I think the directors I think the executives have all the time in the world they need to direct, to read a script. Mm-hmm. Because, and I think that they don't.
They're just not taking.
They're trying to churn it out, and like it's Henry Ford making cars. Mm. And I think that the creative process is worth you taking time. If you look at Swimming with Sharks, which was almost a documentary about the industry. If you look at a lot of industry stuff, and when I first moved out here, when I'm trying to get an agent, I'm trying to get a manager. My manager, Brandon Clutton, has just been amazing. But we've had a rough time. I mean, Brandon has been in screaming arguments with these people about my work, about hiring and all this kind of stuff. But the thing is that there was times when executives would send their assistants home with 8 scripts over the weekend.
Yeah.
That's your weekend.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't care what you do. I don't care how many cocaine-fueled party out things you're going to do. You need to come back in on Monday and show me a script that I'm going to produce for millions of dollars with this person who I've never heard of, who's my uncle-in-law's nephew, because that's the way Hollywood works, and I need to know what this is about.
Yeah.
Not only what is it about, who does it appeal to? What are the demographics? Because Donique and I look at movies and we go, who is that for?
Yeah.
Who was that for? There was a movie recently that was purported. Oh, I know, Shazam. I looked at Shazam, and I'm going, wait a second. This is supposed to be a light superhero fun movie.
Yeah.
They have the 7 deadly sins, which they did not delineate in any way, shape, or form. They were just amorphous monsters.
Yeah.
And they killed a guy. I mean, just threw him out the window, just killed him.
Yeah.
I'm going, so this is a kid's movie? Yeah. Is it not?
Yeah.
Just because you have a bunch of cinematically or diverse kids, how is this a movie? So who is the movie for?
Yeah.
And I think the industry came to that, a lot of that with this movie called Jack Frost years ago with Michael Keaton, where a dad died and he came back as the snowman and everything like that. But he died horrifically.
Yeah.
And it just snatched from these kids, and now his dad's come back as this So he didn't come back so he was haunting a snowman. And there was no good outcome to this. And then he has to die because when the snow melts, then they have to lose their father again. Who thought of this? And then the person who thought of Jack Frost too, because naturally, you really want to have, they didn't tell the complete story. There were so many unanswered questions in Jack Frost. So the question is, who was it for?
The snow returns.
The snow. Jack Frost 2, Dad dies again. What? I mean, so the question is, when you're writing, when we're creating, who is this for? Yeah. What is this about? What story do you want to tell? Even if you've got 18 more stories to tell in this genre. What about this story?
Yeah. So this has been amazing. Let's take a quick break. I just want to text up something, and we'll come back with Rick Walls. This episode of the Christians Who Drink Whiskey and Their Open-Minded Friends podcast is brought to you by Dad's Hat Pennsylvania Rye Whiskey. Dad's Hat is real rye whiskey made the right way. This month's featured bottle is Classic Rye. Barrel aged for at least 6 months in charred new oak quarter cask allows the genuine rye flavor to evolve quickly. As a result, this small batch whiskey is ensured of reaching the right balance of complexity and smoothness. The final product is a very smooth spirit that delivers upfront spice that rye is known for while finishing with a full, round mouthfeel. To find a distributor of this award-winning whiskey, head on over to dadshatrye.com. Or if you're a Pennsylvania resident, you can have any of their delicious rye whiskeys delivered right to your door. Trust the distillery with over 200 years of American distilling tradition, Dad's Hat Rye. Please enjoy responsibly. So, Rick Walls on the podcast, drinking some whiskey in Los Angeles. What brought you to LA? When did you move? What have you been doing? Give us the synopsis of your career here in LA.
All right. I had gone pretty far as an AD and directing in New York, DC, and Philly, and I started writing, and I wrote a script, and I sent it around because I didn't know what to do with the script. And incidentally, the script is terrible. It's absolutely horrible. But it had a good framework. My mother used to say that. She said that there's a lot of stuff in here I don't understand, and there's stuff that I don't think you need. But the story was excellent, and the story was great. Yeah, my mom said this. Your mom critiqued it. Yeah, my mom critiqued it. Because I gave it to everybody at the family at a dinner, and everybody read it. And there's a lot of curse words and dolly moves and crap, and it was terrible. But
it was a really bad. Your mom was like, this good job.
But everybody said, they said, oh my God, the story is so interesting. The characters were, but the rest of it, they just whatever. So I had sent it out to a network out here. And I was working on a commercial. I was working on a commercial for a Spanish cell phone agency. So I don't know why the Spanish cell phone agency decided to shoot it, but I was working with Garrett Brown, who I had met, who was legendary. He created the Steadicam. I went to dinner at his house. I loved Garrett. So working with Garrett, and I do have to tell you this one thing. So Garrett and I there was some second unit stuff we were doing. We tried to get a sunset, so we rolled up to this bridge overlooking somewhere in Philly, and we wanted to get a sunset, so we had to hustle up and get all the stuff out. So he's an icon. So it's very hard for me because, working with me, that I get very sarcastic and I tease people.
I've worked with Garrett too.
But he's an icon, and I wanted to reel it back in because he's freaking Garrett. I mean, you're legendary. It's like you're sitting there.
Another Oscar winner.
Exactly. Multiple Oscar winner, Emmy winner, and invented everything that we look at now. Yeah. And so I wanted to have some reverence, but, I'm still going to be me. So we're hustling to get the thing out. What did you say to Garrett? So what I said to Garrett was we were opening up the trunk. We're trying to get out the sticks, and he had wooden sticks on his camera system.
His old.
I said, wooden sticks? I said, what are these, like the first camera things ever made? He said, what are you, 12? Do you not know what these are? I said, dude, what did you use them when you were back in high school at Bedrock High? And so I just insulted him about the age, and he just talked about how I was 14 years old and the whole thing, and we set it up, and boom, and he just threw that camera up there, and it was a beautiful sunset, and all that. And so from then on, the gloves were off, and I just insulted him the entire time. It was
so.
It was awesome.
Did dinner happen before that or after?
After that.
Oh,
it was after that because I teased him about he had these mittens.
Apparently he didn't.
And a hat.
Apparently he didn't use enough poison. He didn't realize how much poison at dinner.
Look, let me tell you something. He had a hat and gloves and galoshes from from that I had when I was in kindergarten, and I told him that at dinner. His wife said, "Oh my God, thank you for somebody saying that." And he goes, "What?" I let him have it. But anyway, I was on the Spanish commercial, so I was, and this is to the bane of Eric Chung. I didn't get a cell phone for a long time because I didn't need it. I'm arrogant. What can I say? I mean, I came from law. It's not like a humble position, right? So I used to call into my answering machine. Yeah, my phone, and I had a separate line for business, and I had an answering machine call. So everybody would check their answer machines. So I'm checking my answer machine when we had a break on this commercial, and I got a call from LA, and they said to come out. It was BET, and they said they wanted to option my script because they were moving into movies. Yeah, and that's a call you just go. I'm sorry. What? I had to play it like 5 times. So they mentioned an amount of money. They wanted to option it. They wanted me to come out in LA to talk to them. So I tell Karan, and she goes, "Well, the good news is BET wants your script. Yeah. The bad news is BET wants your script." I was like, all right, hold on. Okay. So anyway, I talked to some, and then I did a music video, and I talked to the people there, and the producer was ADing the music video until we finished the production meeting, and he said, "You're the AD. I'm giving you more money. You handle this." Yeah. And he said, "You need to come to LA. Yeah. It is time for you to move." Yeah. And he said, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to take care of you, but I will be able to get you work. Yeah. And so the year 2000 came. So you had somebody telling you that if you were in Los Angeles, you'd have some commercial work. Yes. And you had BET optioning, right, offering you to option a script. Yeah. Makes sense. It was Jed, move away from here. Yeah. That's a Beverly Hills reference. Google Beverly Hills. So I came out in April of 2000, my birthday, April of 2000, and I moved out here, and I did get a lot of work. BET optioned it, let it go, this and that. I worked for them back and forth, but they did Holiday. I came out here, and he was true to his word. Awesome. And I got a lot of music video work. I got a lot of commercial work, and I started understanding the business. And my friend Lenny Manselis, who's one of the best ADs in the business, period. And Lenny, also from Philly area. Lenny got me a lot of television work, and that's when I learned television. Television, episodic television, the workload is totally different from movies. Yeah. We work hard in movies. We work 12-hour days, and that's fine. Yeah. But television, you start off on Monday, your call time is 7 a.m. Yeah. By Friday, your call time is 5 in the evening, which means you're getting a Fraturday. I just told Sarah about Fraturday. About Fraturday. Like, what's Fraturday? Oh no, that's the 10-hour. They would work you all week. It wasn't a 10-hour turnaround. Exactly. Yeah. And then so you get back, so your week is really over at like 2:00 in the afternoon on Saturday. Your weekend is you got to throw clothes in the washing machine. You got to try to get some rest and maybe, say hi to somebody because Monday morning you got 7 a.m. call again. Yeah. So I had to learn that out here in LA, and I actually met my wife on a low budget movie Awesome. So. Well, congrats on all that, and so there's at least one movie on BT that's it's on Prime now. It's on Amazon Prime, Holiday. And you're taking other offers. You've been looking at other. You did some understudy work as a director. I shadowed. We did some shadow work. I shadowed on Criminal Minds and some other shows in Hawaii Five-0. Yeah, cool. Flew me out there, and you get to. I worked with Glenn Kershaw on Criminal Minds, and that was one of the best experiences because it teaches you because he asked me. Well, there's two things. The one thing I'll tell you about that is I show up at Criminal Minds, and it was the producer and Glenn Kershaw. They're both executive producers. Producer in his office had a poster. I'm telling you, from the ceiling passed down to the floor here. It was this long, almost this of himself, giving the middle finger. That was the producer's picture. And you sit there and you just go like this and you look at him and he was wearing the same shirt in the picture. And I went, okay. So their whole thing was, it was a very cool interview because I sat down and the first thing they said was, why do you want to be here? You don't watch Criminal Minds. So of course I watch Criminal Minds. I watched Criminal Minds. I watched your old show. I watched Third Watch. I watched New York Undercover. And they were just like, whoa. I said, yeah, I remember when you did that script on there. And they were just like, well, I'm going to show up to a Hollywood meeting and not having research done. I've been watching these guys for years. So they said, we had this great discussion about Criminal Minds and everything. And the one thing Glenn asked me was, why are you here? What do you need to learn? We've looked at your resume. You're obviously you're working a regular job. I was working at CBS in legal and business affairs because of the writer's strike. I told you about that. And kind of, in between, but I was still trying to get my thing on. So they said, why are you here? And I said, I needed to know how you cover 8 people in a room who all have something pertinent to say about this crime. Because if they don't get that exposition out, then we don't understand what the crime was. We don't understand how they got it. So I want to know how you do that. And they were just like, wow, that's brilliant. He said, that is a very good question. Yeah. And then the rest of the meeting was they said, well, it wasn't a question of if you're going to get the job. This is an a-hole meeting. Yeah. And an a-hole meeting. Okay, I know a lot of Hollywood. I don't know what that term is. Let's see if you're an a-hole or not. Because we got to work with you for a week, and you got to blend in with this crew and this cast and all these egos, and we want to know if you're an a-hole. That's why we haven't done this for 2 years. Yeah. I said, well, I went to law school and I'm a Hollywood industry professional. Of course I'm an a-hole. Just no question. Yeah. And they said, cool. So we went on. But yeah, Criminal Minds, I did Hawaii Five-0. Yeah. Brilliant. There was action stuff going on there. And it was just, Hawaii was such a character. Yeah. In every single scene. It wasn't only the surfing and everything. It was just the topography of it, and then the organic diversity, because you can't have a show with all one race in Hawaii. No. Because there's people who are in all walks of life and all races and cultures. So I thought that was I learned a lot from television.
Let's do one more film story and then we'll move on to the second half of the show. Charles Washington wants you to tell a story.
All right, one more film story. Okay. So we were doing this music video, and please don't ask me the name of the group. It was 3 guys, and they were newish, and it was a new director. So I was ADing, and they were doing this rap video. Okay, it was whatever. So the whole plan was we shoot them doing their entire song in 4 or 5 different locations, and you cut it together. Real basic stuff, right? So we did that. We did the interior stuff. We did the opposite on the way we normally shoot in Philadelphia. We did the interior stuff. So we shot them in the studio. We shot them in this faux living room that we set up with some half-naked girl in the background for some reason. I don't know the song. I didn't have nothing to do with that. Yeah. So it's a rap video, So anyway, we did that. And then we went outside to their neighborhood because they want to perform in front of their neighborhood. Now, the neighbors were so proud of them, and these guys are trying to make it. So there was a whole street of garages, garage, and they graffitied. They tagged the whole thing. It was like a mural. It wasn't graffiti. It was a mural. Of the name,
the highest level.
Right. Art, but in other words, they took paint and they did art on a building that they didn't own. Oh. But it was like a 1-story garage, and it had the logo of the band. Yeah. So, I mean, that was just wow, right? So I'm going, obviously we're going to perform in front of that. So the director, she gets very artistic and decides what would be cool is if all of them jumped off the 1-story building in front of the logo while they're singing the song. Okay? So, and they decide this on the day. On the day. Oh, you know what would be good? I said, okay, so you try to give the director whatever they want, right? So I said, well, what about if they jump up and then you just reverse the film.
Yeah.
Okay, so it would look like they're coming down. See, they don't jump up high enough. One of them was this chubby kid, and he looked like he literally had never jumped in his life. Okay, I don't know how he got. There was no PE involved in him. Yeah. It wasn't like he was like grotesquely his BMI was too high. It was just he was a chubby, soft kid.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it was cold, so they had a whole bunch of the clothes, the jackets that were puffier. So he literally looked like the Michelin Man.
He was puffy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. You know, he wasn't P. Diddy. He was puffy. So I was trying to figure out a way. So the director was. So we have this argument about art versus safety. You know, exactly. I wanted to move safety up from third. You know, safety third. You know, we're trying to move it up to second at least. You know. So, but what about the art? It'll be real cool. Okay. So I say fine. I tell Charles Washington.
Wait. Did you do it as the last shot?
No. Oh, I tried that too, but no, we had like 8 other shots down an alley.
You gotta start the scene that way.
Yeah. No, and then of course grandma and grandmas and aunties were in the movie, so they were all in makeup. They were getting makeup, and we can't shoot before their makeup is ready on an outdoor video in which they're going to be seen in a wide shot, but they had to get their makeup and hair did. So I'm furious at this part. And so I go, okay, all right. So I tell Charles Washington, I said, Charles, you stay on set. I'm going to go back with the producers. And what we did was they knew my legal background. They said, can you write us a rider to the contract, indemnifying us? And I said, yes, and me too. I'm naming myself specifically so that we don't get sued in case anybody gets hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm working out the wording and we're talking about this. I said, okay, I'm writing down this right. And then it occurs to me. So I get on the walk. I go, Charles, make sure they don't rehearse. And Charles Washington comes back with the legendary line in Philly production. He goes, stand by. I threw the pen across the wall. I go, we're done. They absolutely rehearsed. The director waited for me to leave, and then they rehearsed. So what the guys, once they got up to the one story at the top of the roof, they decided maybe jumping off wouldn't do it. Yeah. So what they did was they hung from their hands down there, so it's a shorter drop.
Yeah.
But Puffy decides to jump off the roof like Spider-Man, and he landed like not Spider-Man. And he messed up his leg. So now, got to call an ambulance, got to take him to the hospital, this and that, and all this kind of stuff. And so my rider is pointless. So I'm like, okay, so, Charles gets him up and they get him to the hospital and his grandma goes with him and this and that. There's a cell phone with him. I don't know. So I wrote out the rider anyway. So I wrote out the rider to the thing and like it didn't happen yet. Everybody got hurt. Yeah. And the director, I was pissed. Okay. Yeah. So we're done. I'm just like, they were like, did you shoot it? At least did you shoot it? No, it was rehearsal. It was rehearsal. Okay. So we get called Charles. I will never. Every time I hear that now, I get a shiver. I mean, because I was on holiday one time and I said, "Listen, are we ready to do this? Because I need to. We need to move on." And somebody said, "Stand by." And I went, "Oh my God, who got hurt?" Because of Charles Washington. So the grandma calls us and she says, "Look, he still wants to be in it. He still wants to be in the video. And we're not going to sue anybody. We swear to God, we'll sign whatever you want." Yeah. I was like, okay. So he comes back and the doctors were like, he had to sign out AMA. Yeah. Because they were like, we should really fix your leg. Yeah. That you got from jumping off of a 1-story building onto concrete. Yeah. You're non-athletic. Yeah. So anyway, they get back. We wrote it out, signed it. They all signed everything. So for the rest of the day, so the director is very circumspect around me because when I get angry, anyway. So I didn't care about continuity. I said, from now on, this kid sits. I don't care what they're doing. So we would do dolly shots across the thing, and the guys would be doing their rap, and then they would go to his part, and he's sitting. Oh, he was on the It would be in the alley. The guys were running down toward us, like maybe the cops or the bad guys were chasing him, and he was at the alley. He was sitting there. Everything he did was sitting down, and I don't care. And I didn't care. I wasn't going to. They had a group picture at the end, and they all had to crouch down beside him because he wasn't getting up. Okay. So I didn't care about that. So a couple months later, the video comes out, And it turned out that he never stood up in the entire video. Even at the other shots that we took, the earlier shots, he was always sitting down. So it was actually on brand. And That's forevermore awesome. in Philadelphia production for me anyway. Stand by.
Stand by. Well, let's. This has been awesome, man. Awesome catch up. Let's jump over to the second half.
Okay.
It's third act, as you might call it. The question I ask all my guests: what do you think of Jesus? How about a segue for that?
I was about to say, I wanted to tease you about that. Your segues to Jesus are really bad, okay? You're like, wow, that was... So all those people died. That was terrible. What do you think about Jesus?
You know? That's actually a better segue than we've had.
Your segue are terrible. Okay.
We'll put a sponsor break in there.
There you go. When we come back, we'll be talking about Jesus. Exactly. Okay. There's no question of my belief in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. There's no question in the entire belief I have that he was born of a virgin, that he died, and then he came back, and then he rested at the right hand of the Father. I'm all in. Okay. I was all in as a child. My mother took us to church and we did Sunday school, and I got routinely kicked out of Sunday school for asking deeper philosophical questions and, the whole thing. Not quite, could Jesus make a burrito that even was so hot he couldn't eat it? Something, not that thing, but, questioning about, the return and this and that. And I had one teacher who told me, she said, there are things that we can historically prove. Mm-hmm. There are things that we can anecdotally, because then that's what the Bible is, anecdotes. But there's a space in between, and that is where faith is. And the question is, do you have faith? And how do you get your faith is, how do you see it? How do you see it in your regular life? Do you see this mystical faith? And so it has been something that I have looked at, and my parents have always told, my father always said, do you see the hand of God in it? And so that is a question I ask when I've had terrible mistakes, when I've had tragedies, when I've had triumphs, when I've had disappointments, when I've had unexpected joy. Do you see the hand of God in it? And I always have. I have always seen it. And it is something that I need to hold on to. You hold on to, especially during these times, especially when you get to 2020 and you see perhaps the political landscape is for you, when you see Black people being killed, exponentially. And I know that I have to raise a Black child. My wife is 6 feet tall. I'm 6'6". My kid is already 5'2". He's 11. He's going to be a big Black kid, which means he's a target, means he's a threat. And he's a target and a threat in a country that I love. So the question is, do we see the hand of God in it? I see the hand of God every single day.
That's a great answer. I was part of the Philadelphia production scene. I did a corporate CEO interview at like 8 a.m. We wrapped at like 10, and we were all like just happy to be working and see each other. And we're like, let's go to lunch before this day ends. And different people were sharing their perspectives about religion at the table. And at one point, the sound guy, my friend Jeff Ent, elbows me, and then he's like, get ready, I'm about to out you. And he's like, and people were sharing their negative thoughts about religion, and he was like, he's like, I want to hear what you guys have been talking for a while, I want to hear it over lunch, I want to hear what Kevin thinks, because Kevin believes some of this stuff. And it was just interesting to just be like, hey, I can't deny anybody's experience, anybody's what you've seen with your eye and believe with your heart. I don't want to like start challenging you on that, but I just got to say from my experience, I didn't use those words, but from my experience over the course of my life, I have seen the hand of God. Have I been looking every day for it?
Right.
No.
No.
To be
Right.
completely honest, no. But I love the way you said that. I've seen the hand of God. I've seen, when I look at the sunset, I'm like, yeah, the science makes sense on why that looks so pretty. But why do I believe it's so beautiful? Why do I, it's just like...
You're talking about the hand of God in terms of beauty.
Well,
how does it make you feel?
There's beauty, but there's also the more challenging things.
Right.
That I see it and I'm like, I don't understand why the political and racial and all the other tensions between societal tensions or my marriage tensions or my relationship or my internal tensions. I don't understand that, but I do see the hand of God in it. So I like that answer. That's great.
Well, a friend of mine, a former friend of mine, when my mother passed away, that's what he said. He said, "Do you see the hand of God?" And my mother, I think she died way too early. She was in her 70s, but she had an enlarged heart. She had health issues. But my wife, who was very close to her, talked to her for like 2.5 hours on a Friday. I talked to her on Saturday. If they had asked me, if somebody had told me your mom's going to die, well, what would you say to her? It was said in that 2 hours. We talked about everything, and she died the next Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. So to be able to say goodbye, to be able to have that memory, that's the hand of, and this is a woman who died in her bed next to her husband of 50 years. Mm. We all have to go. There is no way. I mean, that's like the purview of very rich people or very evil people, who get to be 100 years old and you've done all this crap and they die in their own comfortable bed surrounded by, all the relatives who are going to fight over the will. So, but for somebody as good and as my mom, it's the same thing. My father just died recently and you see the hand of God. He's 95 years old. My older brother came back and took fantastic care. I mean, ridiculous care of him. So there is no question about it. You see it. There's no question for me.
So being Christian, I guess you might label it.
Yes.
Jesus fan, hand of God seer. Do you see different ways that your faith or your religion has, for lack of a better word, like pros and cons to it? What are the ways that hand of God seers, if you will, are doing a good job, and what ways they're not doing a good job in?
Well, that's a kind of a personal question. I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. What are you saying? Am I looking at pros and cons of my beliefs?
Yeah, I guess more so of the religion itself, of Christianity itself. I think there's a lot of people come on my show are not believers in Jesus, and it's always interesting to see, like, there's a lot of tensions right now,
right? And
some of those are derived from religious tensions, I guess.
Okay, for me. And my wife always gets on me about being semantics. You're talking about religion. I'm talking about versus Christianity, because those are two different things. Yeah. Okay. Religion is a construct, and it basically, as practiced throughout history, is very capitalistic, because it's a lot of how do you make money? How do we make money to continue this thing? Okay. Christianity or spirituality, whatever form it takes, has a pure view, okay? And when you look at, especially Jesus Christ, when you look at Jesus Christ, this is a figure that has been known through Buddhism, through the Torah, through the Quran, and especially the New Testament, okay? This is a man whose teachings only encapsulated 3 years, and he was less than 20 miles away. And it is a religion that has over a third of the world for the last 2,000 years. That has to mean something. That is not nothing. I'm sorry, it's just not. Now, how we look at religion doesn't answer all the questions, but I will say this, that if you are not feeding and clothing the homeless, you are not treating fellow people who are in desperate need with any help from your largesse, then I question that you are an actual follower of the tenet of Jesus Christ. That's what I do. That's how I look at it. So there are people who say they are Christians, but there is no Christians but. That's not how Jesus worked, and that's how he emphatically said not to. I belong to South Hills Church in Burbank, and the pastor there, Dave Stewart, he tells stories about Jesus. And first, Dave is he tells these stories like you were there. Like, so Jesus is there and he's got his boys and they had a long day. He gives you a backstory, so it's almost like, okay. Yeah. And then he drops these pearls. And like I said, if you look throughout history, what he believes in, what you're supposed to believe in if you follow him, is very clear. There's no subterfuge or layers. If you're not doing that, then I question that you believe in him or how you believe in him.
Good. Great answer. Not that I'm judging, right down to Rick got a 9.5 on that answer. No, it's true. I think there's a lot of there are a lot of Christians, but Christians, but I was one. I probably was one this morning. Hopefully, not one right now. All right, the next question I have is a kind of another left field question, but if you thought Jesus one was weird. When you talk about Jesus, you're talking about this. Sometimes you're talking about this deity turned man. There's this spiritual realm we kind of break through. Some of us when we talk about Jesus, some of us just he's a good teacher or whatever. One of the questions I'm fascinated to ask my Christian, atheist, agnostic, Buddhist, Taoist friends: have you ever had a personal experience that we would describe as paranormal or supernatural or spiritual?
Oh, absolutely. There's times when you get I've been in my greatest pain, and the first thing I said was, "Thank you, Jesus." The first time was, the first heartbreak. Your first girlfriend and they break up with you. That's just devastating.
That's supernatural.
That was ridiculous. I was in my freshman year on campus, and not only we broke up, and then she's walking past on a date. There was no pain like that. Will Smith talked about it in his song, Just the Two of Us. There's no pain like that. Okay. And the very first thing that came into my mind, I felt the calmness come over me, and I felt somebody's hand on my shoulder. They said, "It's okay." And I said, "Thank you, Jesus." That was the first time. When I messed up my knee, I played basketball. I played Division I basketball. I played semi-pro ball. I went right up to, I was in the free agent camps for the NBA until I realized that I don't know what game they're playing. I had no idea what that. I was playing against Patrick Ewing.
They said the same thing about you.
Yeah, they did. They literally did that. Patrick Ewing blocked one of my shots, and I think it's still in orbit somewhere. And it wasn't like I don't know if you know basketball, but he didn't block the shot and you start a fast break. He hit it and everybody had to stop and look at it. And I'm like, law school would be a good thing. I passed the SAT. So, and then Huey Brown asked me, he said, "Is there something else that you like to do? I mean, like really passionate about?" Because this is not going to happen. When I hurt my knee playing basketball last time, it was on fast break. I did this thing, hurt my knee. And I thought it was over. I thought I thought I was going to die. It just really hurt. And the first thing I said was, "Thank you, Jesus." And I could feel it. I could feel him saying, "Look, it's all right. You're going to be all right." Whoever was speaking. Okay. I have felt my mother in meetings, after she passed in like 2005. I've been in meetings. I've been on jobs. I've been in, dicey situations. And I felt my mother right there. So yes.
When your mom comes to those meetings or dicey situations, like what's the message, or what's the?
I feel her presence.
It's just soothing, or
I feel her presence. Sometimes it's soothing, and sometimes my mother says, "Buck up." Let's get through this. And I have felt her presence. I have felt her presence in dicey situations with the police. I have felt her presence in production, doing stuff in production, and there's times when I feel her there calming me, and I'm good. And my wife has talked about her feelings and how she's had that same kind of spiritual interaction. You have to be open to it. You have to seek it in a subtle way. But yeah,
it's awesome.
I've absolutely have felt that.
Rick Walls, this has been an amazing conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
There's 2 more questions I have for you, but they're for our patrons only. So if you are not a patron, head over to patreon.com/funny&amen, and we're going to ask Rick 2 questions over there. And thank you very much for being here, dude.
Thank you, Kevin. It is so great to see you, man.
So good to catch up, man.
Seriously miss you, bro. I really do, man.
Yeah, man.
We have so many good times on set.
Oh my word! Let's do some more, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
So thanks very much, Rick Walls. Check out all of our other podcasts. If you know Rick, go check out Charles Washington and Jen Schoenwald and Richard Gretzinger.
You saw Jen? Oh, I got to see Jen's podcast. Oh
man.
My goodness.
My mom did not like the podcast.
Jen is my girl. Jen is my girl.